Bim! Guess what? It's Friday, it's 8 o'clock and 1 minute, and it's What a Week That Was for the 30th of September 2022. Tomorrow is October. What the heck is going on with this year? It is going so fast. Stuff we're going to talk about this week. Russian, what's going on in Ukraine, NASA, thinking the God, gas pipe sabotage, wasn't it? A new leader in Italy, and massive weather situations going on around the world, tragedy left, right and centre, and some breaking news which was from the 1960s, but more of that shortly. So, to begin with, this week we saw the sad passing of Julio, the rapper, who I think did Monsters Paradise, whatever it was called. Living in a Gangster's Paradise, that's the one. He passed away at the age of 59, which is very sad. Hi JT, hiya Rachel as well, hope you're well. Like I said earlier, if you want to get a shout out, then just type in something, and we can say hello to you all. So yeah, breaking news, but from like 50 odd years ago, not 60 odd years ago, near enough, and that is the Moors murders. Now, if you're not familiar, hi Kieran, if you're not familiar, the Moors murderers are Brady and Hindley, and they took young children off the streets of Manchester and surrounding areas and basically murdered them and then buried them on the moors, which is like natural habitat in the area, very mossy, very peaty, and very high up as well. They got caught, and this was in the 1960s, and all the bodies apart from one have been found. And the one that hasn't been found is Keith Bennett. His mother spent her life trying to get Hindley and Brady to actually say where the body was, but she died a few years ago not knowing where her son was, and that must have been awful for her. His brother took up the mantle, and now it seems that someone who has been looking into this, like an author type person, has discovered some remains on the moors, which may be that of Keith Bennett. And as horrendous as it sounds, I hope it is, because the family need closure, everyone needs closure. Now the two murderers are dead, they've both died in prison. Like I said, this was in the 1960s. I was born the year that Ian Brady went missing, and not that far away from where it happened. It was Hattersley, where they lived. And I grew up in a place called Staley Bridge, and the house that they murdered the children in, which was a council house, was literally a mile and a half up the road from where I was brought up. But after they'd already been arrested, the house later got demolished because no one wanted to live there, obviously. Just horrendous. But they went all over the northwest, basically stealing children from places. So hopefully, normally try and keep this light-hearted, but you can't always, I'm afraid, but hopefully there will be some justice for the family, and they can have some peace finally. So yeah, right then, no doubt we'll be doing more about that as things go on. Right, in Britain we've got a new government. We've got Liz Truss. You know what I'm saying? Bring back Boris. Oh my God, she is useless. She's got a new Chancellor of the Exchequer, who is beyond useless. We talked last week of the budget that they did, tax cuts, and they reduced the 45% tax cut for the highest earners to 40%, which means if you're on a stupid amount of money, you're getting tens of thousands of pounds a year back in tax that you're not paying anymore. Whereas if you're desperate for money and you're on a low income wage, you're basically getting bugger all back, and because the pound against the dollar has just fallen through the floor, I mean at one point it was practically a pound was worth $1. Now I've never in my life known that, it's always been round about $1, between 15 and say 30, occasionally a bit higher, occasionally a bit lower, but generally in those 15 cents. But it means that everything in Britain's going up because you buy stuff with dollars, and if our pound sterling is not worth as much as it was against the dollar, that means that things are more expensive in the long run, and it's definitely not a good thing. But she thinks it's all right, and more importantly, or less importantly, I'll be honest with you, the cabinet seem to think it's all right as well, and they've been defending it. But of course, Liz Truss being Liz Truss, she had a lovely jolly during the week, and she went off to New York to see the UN, and then she disappeared. So all this crap's going on, everyone's panicking, and everyone's terrified of mortgage rates going up, and price of everything going up, and she's just hiding somewhere. House prices, well, a lot of places now have reduced mortgages or taken away mortgages that people were going to go for, because they can't guarantee that the people who are getting the mortgages will be able to afford them in 3 months' time or even a month's time, because they've messed up the economy. How can anyone mess up an economy that badly, that quickly? Well, Liz Truss can. In Liz we trust. I did write a thing in the local paper. I'm a columnist in the local paper. I put the blogs up online as well. You can find them if you know what to look for. I don't advertise them, but I do them. And what I put up was a little song, obviously written, and basically it was a parody of the Robin Hood song. There was a Robin Hood TV show in the 60s and 70s or thereabouts, and the theme tune of it was Robin Hood, riding through the glen, Robin Hood with a band of men, loved by the poor, hated by the rich, Robin Hood, Robin Hood, Robin Hood. So I changed it to Lizzie Truss lives at number 10, Lizzie Truss with a band of diverse sycophants, because we can't say men anymore now because it's sexist, and they're not all men anyway. Loved by the poor, loved by the rich, Lizzie Truss. Yeah, basically, as you pointed out, Billy Shears, the party members who voted for her are all high earners. They're all middle-aged white men, near enough, and they all live in the south of England. Who's benefited from these tax cuts more than anyone else? Oh, that'll be the rich people from the south of England. All the people who are in the cabinet are not necessarily the people who are the best for the job, as we've already found out with our new Chancellor, who's beyond useless. They are the people who supported her. So basically, hence the word sycophants, she's surrounded herself by her perceived friends in order to govern without any challenges. But you've got to have people in your cabinet, in your government, who say, no, you can't do that because of this. Why don't we try this? Why don't we try that? And it just seems ridiculous that the whole economy of Britain has just gone through the ringer in a week. It's just absolutely horrendous what is going on. There's a video saying Labour are 38% ahead or something. Yeah, they do polls like they do in America as well, Democrats and Republicans and all that, and they say, you know, if there was an election today, who would win? And they're all saying Labour. Now, good channel you have, keep up the good work, well done. Oh, thank you, Billy Shears. But the problem you've got is that the Labour Party are, you won't believe this, beyondly useless. They had their party conference this week, and, well, it was interesting. For a start, they sang the national anthem, which is now God Save Our Gracious King, because obviously the Queen has passed away. But they've not sang any national anthem for decades. And people are saying, is that because it was to a woman, but now it's a king, they can sing it? Then when they sang it, Keir Starmer was sat there clapping, and I've never seen anyone clap so badly. It was like a seal that had been given an injection kind of thing. He was kind of clapping like that. I mean, you know, it's not difficult clapping. I mean, Okay, some people struggle eating a bacon sandwich. Hi Ed Miliband, I noticed you're back in the shower cabinet. But if you can't clap or even walk, there was a bit where he was walking down a corridor and he looked like, have you ever done that thing where you're walking down a street or a mall or on a sidewalk or whatever, and there's someone behind you and you know they're behind you, and they were talking and then they kind of stopped talking, and then you're thinking, well, the only thing they could be looking at is me because I'm in front of them, there's no one else around. So then you think, I hope I'm walking all right. It might just be me, this, I don't know. So then you concentrate on your walking. So you kind of think, right, you know, I won't swing my arms too much, and you know, and I won't look like I'm sauntering down. I'll do a, and you just walk like a demented robot. Again, it might just be me, but it does happen to me. And he was the same thing, and I'm like, he's got the charisma. Keir Starmer, I wouldn't vote for him. He's got the charisma of a dead squid. His plans he's got, we're going to make an energy company called GB Energy or GB Power or something like that, and it's going to be owned by the government. Right, okay then. How do you set up a energy company from scratch? You need billions and billions and billions of pounds, dollars, yen, whatever, to actually set the thing up. And then you need to get the infrastructure in, you need to have the equipment that will produce the power. Where's that going to come from? So, complete waste of time. If you want to do that, you just nationalise the energy companies. You don't set up a new one going against all the big companies that are already there. You buy them out. It's going to cost you billions to buy them out, but then you will own it, but the infrastructure's there already. All the power plants, all the green parts of it, i.e. the wind turbines, the solar panels. Not that I agree with any of that. We need nuclear power. That's the only thing Liz Truss has come up with that I agree with at the moment, and that is we need to sort out global warming. Sad fact, there is very little choice to vote for come the next election. Yeah, there wasn't in the last election either, Billy. If you were voting in the last election, we had a choice of Boris Johnson or Jeremy Corbyn, because the other parties, they're never going to get in power. And Jeremy Corbyn was just completely off his rocker. So it's like, you have to vote for Boris, because at least Boris knows he's mad, whereas Corbyn thought he was a genius. So we voted as a country for the right one. As it happens where I am, because I'm in Wigan, they voted for a Labour MP, but I did give my vote to the Tories because I didn't want Corbyn getting in. And then we had Brexit, which kind of sorted, more sorted than anyone else. And then we had the COVID crisis, and then we had Russia invading Ukraine. Now imagine if Corbyn had been Prime Minister when those things happened. The place would be very different. Mind you, to be fair, Liz Truss, in a week after the funeral of the Queen, in the week of the funeral of the Queen even, completely destroyed the entire economy. So we've kind of fast-tracked where we would have probably got to, apart from not speaking Russian, that we would have done if Jeremy Corbyn had been in power. But anyway, I digress. And then next to him in the picture there is Angela Rayner. Now, she, ironically, is the MP for the town next to... I'm coming up to... I'm talking about Italy later, so yeah, hang around for that one. She's Ashton-under-Lyne MP, and I know that because, like I said before, I was brought up in Stalybridge. Ashton-under-Lyne is the big town near Stalybridge, so if you want to do shopping that was, you know, bigger names shops rather than just independent shops, you go to Ashton, and she's the MP for that. Now, Keir Starmer's got the personality, like I said before, of a dead squid. She's got the personality of a washerwoman. You know, like you can imagine her scrapping outside a bar or a pub or something at 3 o'clock in the morning, calling all people's names under the sun and everything. And she's a redhead, and she lives up to that. And she got in trouble for saying, I can't remember what it was now, but she said something about the Tories. I can't remember, but she got in trouble for it anyway. Anyway, then Keir Starmer makes her into the deputy leader, but apparently they don't get on that well. But they are completely different. But that probably works in the fact that they can challenge each other of what they're doing. She says that she thinks Labour MPs should support pickets on the line when they're on strike, and Keir Starmer says we shouldn't. We should distance ourselves from that, but we can support them from a distance. Like I say, he's just a wet lettuce. No idea what's going on. That woman looks like a tank. You've seen some very strange tanks in your time, mate. Wouldn't want to meet her in a dark alley. No, I wouldn't want to meet her outside the chippy, to be fair. She might want to nick one of my chips. But, yeah, Labour, for me, are unelectable as well, because it's all right coming up with stuff when you're not in charge, and saying, oh, we'll do this, we'll do that, we'll do the other. It'll be wonderful, it'll be beautiful. We'll all live happily ever after. And I'm like, no, we won't, because you've done this before when you were in government, and things have not been right for a long while. What we need is a brand new party to come from nowhere, a bit like UKIP nearly did, and kind of shake up the establishment. You know, have people who are not knights of the realm, people who are not millionaires leading these parties, people who've actually lived on council estates and had the bailiffs knocking on the door. You know, things like that. That's what we need. We need someone, real people, who've got a bit of common sense as well. So we could say we need people who are common sensey. They've got common sense. I don't know. They've got common sense, and they're going to make a change. Now, there are elections all over the world all the time, and as just been pointed out by Billy, in Italy, this young lady has now become, or is about to become probably, the Prime Minister. Now, Italian politics is insane. It is madness. I mean, our lot is mad, but Italy just knocked it up to about a 15 billion times madder. There's not been an overall government in Italy, possibly forever. They're all coalitions of different ones, including Berlusconi, who I think is a convicted criminal, or not far off. Why am I thinking about that scary Chucky doll? Oh yeah, with the ginger hair, that lady. Yes, Billy, you're not far off. But she's the Brotherhood of Italy, I think it's called, and she's the leader of the party, which in itself is ironic. But they got more votes than anyone else, and she's setting up now a new government. She's trying to negotiate with other parties to make a government, but she is far right, which makes Jeremy Corbyn look like he's middle grounder. I mean, she is far right. She's the furthest right ever, and her policies are scary. But what she said is, even though she's far right, she's gonna not go completely far right because she wants to be for all the people. So she's going to go to centre right. But I'm thinking, well, people voted you because you're far right. So surely you'd be better off sticking to what you are. Now, I've said for a long while, Brexit, we needed to leave Europe. We've left Europe, nearly. And it needed to happen. The reason for that was when we joined the European Union. No, it wasn't the European Union then, it was called something else. But when we joined it, there was 8 countries in it. We were all industrial, Western, quite powerful, large, Christian, not that makes much difference, countries, but we're all very similar. You know, Russia, Germany, France, United Kingdom, Belgium, Spain, Portugal, Italy. You know, we're all very similar economies. So we all kind of worked well together, and then that was like a gated community. Then what we did was we bashed a hole in the wall of the gated community, and we invited in the council estate around the corner, which was be your Latvia, your Lithuania, your Poland, your you know, still not poor, but okay kind of economies. And then we thought, well, what about those tents down there and those people living homeless? So we invited Greece in and other countries like that. And then all of a sudden, we've gone from a 1/8 voting on laws for our country, because there was 8 countries, to 1 in 20 odd. And the majority of the people who are making the decisions for our country, we can't vote for. And no matter what all our MEPs voted for, they could never get anything through because there was too many people around, and we needed to leave for that reason. That's the only reason I voted for it. We needed to get control of our laws again. Nothing to do with, you know, people coming in, people going out or anything like that. Nothing to do with that whatsoever. Immigration, that was what I was looking for. But now we've got control of our borders. I have failed to see why we're not allowing people in who've been coming in for years anyway, who do things like pick the crops from the fields on a little visa. Why can't we still do that? I don't understand it. We control the borders, so we can allow who we want in. So why are we stopping them coming in? And then, you know, people are mourning that stuff's rotting in the fields. And then you had the pigs that were being slaughtered because there was no slaughtermen coming over to kill them humanely. So they were being put down and, you know, losing lots of money. And it's like, if you control your borders, then you control people coming, and you get people coming in who you want to come in. But anyway, that's another story for another day. But she is far right, and I'm pretty sure that there's a possibility there could be an Italy exit, or Brexit, it's it. I think there's a possibility that she might want to split from Europe. And that's another thing I wanted, and I could see that Europe was going to fall apart, and we're better out first, get ourselves organised, and then we can say, oh, Italy, yeah, we'll do a trade with you, you know, same as what it was before, we'll do it with you, blah blah blah. And then Germany, there's people in Germany who want to leave, there's people in France, Spain, Portugal, they'll see that us and Italy are getting on really well, and doing trades with each other, and be like, oh, we want some of that, we don't want this, you know, European. And then, you know, 10 years time, there'd be like 3 people left in Europe, and then all the other ones around the outside as well. So yeah, it could be good in a weird way that she's done as well as she has, but don't quote me on that. That's all I'm saying, because what do I know? I don't know much about Italian politics. However, one thing I will say about the Italian politics is they are fair, and they are honest and transparent. Bit like this box, which is a transparent box. And this box was in Ukraine, and it was the 4 states in Ukraine that had a referendum on whether or not they wanted to join Russia. The reason why the ballot boxes are clear is so that when the votes were put in, they generally open up and the people there can see what you voted, rather than if it's a black box. So it seemed like a legitimate referendum, you know. You go there, you vote, and off you go. But no, they actually went door to door with armed Russian troops in Ukraine, banging on doors like bailiffs, telling the Ukrainians that they have to vote in this referendum, and watching them put the cross on there. Where are they going to put the cross if you've got a guy or a few guys with automatic weapons stood behind you from your invading the country that's invaded you, your soldiers from that country? You're going to put them in the, yeah, I want to be part of Russia, yeah, I just don't want to die, yeah. So, yeah, I don't think it was necessarily the fairest referendum ever, or the most transparent referendum ever, or even remotely legitimate ever. It was just horrible. So, the results are in, and Luhansk, Donetsk, Sarafina and Kherson, they've all voted, surprisingly, to join Russia. So they are now part of Russia and no longer part of Ukraine. Completely legitimate, in my opinion. I can't see why that would not be a legitimate, valid thing to do, apart from the utter corruptness that went on in order to get the vote, and the intimidation that was given out to basically the Ukraine people in their own country by an invading force. So Putin, being Putin, thought we can do some lavish thing about this. So they had this big ceremony with soldiers marching around like they do, a lovely big table, a big desk, lots of flags, big white room, and he signed a proclamation saying that these now are Ukrainian, the Ukrainian territories are now part of Russia, which means if Ukraine try and capture back these areas, which are Ukrainian in everyone else's eyes, but not in his eyes, that would be deemed by Russia as an invasion of their territory, which is why he's done it. Basically, as we all know, I've been talking about it for a while now, he's been on the back foot. He's now got the army being bolstered by the reservists, which are people who've either been in the army up to 30-40 years ago, or have done a bit of training with the army and have kind of signed up saying, yeah, we'll join the army. And people are fleeing the country, as I reported last week, from this, because they don't feel, if this is a military manoeuvre, why do you need all these extra troops? Where are the troops gone that went there in the first place? Well, they're either injured or dead, or they've run away. So he's signed this document, which means now, in his eyes, if, like I say, Ukraine try and get back the land that Russia has stolen from them in the last 8 months, that is the equivalent of invading Russia, which means then he can defend his country by throwing more at it, and he's even threatened to use nuclear weapons. And he says, I'm not bluffing, but obviously in Russian, because he doesn't speak much English. And again, it's like, why are we allowing people like this to be in charge of countries? You know, we've got to do more to stop it. Then the other thing going on as well is, we all know that he's been using the gas and electricity that he supplies to Europe as a weapon by stopping it, and the pipelines, I can never remember what they're called, Nord Streams 1 and 2, which run under the sea from the tip of Russia right down, I think it's the Baltic Sea, and then into Germany or wherever. So they're very long pipes. They've now got 4 leaks that have mysteriously sprung in them, and Russia's saying it's nothing to do with us, but the seismic activity shows that somewhere in the region of 250 kilograms of explosive has been used in each explosion, or something similar to that. So therefore it's definitely sabotage of some kind, and if it is, that again is a slight war crime. What he's doing in Ukraine is going to be one tough decision for NATO to make. Well, yeah, I mean, the problem you've got, like I say, is if he's made it, in his eyes, part of Russia now, then any impact on that land he will deem as an invasion of Russia, even though it's not. It's part of Ukraine, and they're trying to get it back for their people who have been bullied, threatened, and probably in some cases tortured, because I mean, we all know they've been torturing people already and murdering people. So yeah, I mean, they come banging on your door and you've not been killed or tortured yet, and they say vote on here, you can either vote to stay in Ukraine or vote to join us, the Russians, and they're stood there with a machine gun. You're going to vote for becoming a Russian. You're not going to vote to stay Ukrainian, because you'll be taken from your house and your family will never see you again. You'll then end up in Siberia or a hole somewhere with other people who think the same as you. And that is what we're up against. So we can't acknowledge what he's done, but that means we can support Ukraine in getting that land back. But if we do that, and he decides that Ukraine is invading Russia, and he uses nuclear weapons, then everything just kicks off. Whether it's the end of the world or not, I don't know. We've had nuclear weapons go off before. Admittedly, there weren't many around at the time, and it was like 80 years ago. But as pointed out by one of the Russian people, saying that the Americans are the only country ever to have used nuclear weapons in a war, but they may not be for much longer. Now, whether or not Russia is stupid enough to do that, I mean, bearing in mind, at the end of the day, no disrespect to the Ukrainians, Putin and the troops and all his generals and all that thought they could go into Ukraine and take control of the whole country in 6 days. We're 8 months in, and they're getting pushed back out of the country, and they've only got around about 15% of the country, and they're now drafted in reserves because their army has been destroyed one way or another by the Ukrainian people. Now, if you can't beat Ukraine, again, I'm not dissing the Ukrainians at all, but it's not a rich country, it is not an overpopulated country, but they've held off the might of Russia. Then the rest of the world, we've got nothing to fear on them. Their technology is old. A lot of stuff, when they do that big march through Red Square, May Day and all that kind of thing, you look at the stuff there and it's like you're watching a World War II army movie or something. The technology is not great, so our technology is better than them. We could strike them before they strike us. We could probably stop the majority of nuclear missiles if they were sent all over the world. We've got better capabilities, we've got more countries, we've got more people, we've got more soldiers as a world against this one power. The only problem you've got is China. Them two are kind of stirring a pot. Heard a rumour that the president of China, who met up with Putin a week or two ago, again, only a rumour, I've only seen it once, not seen it in regular news, but is under house arrest in Beijing, and someone else is running the country, which is one of the military generals, because they didn't agree with the way he was running the country. So China could be an interesting thing to watch as well. Do you think the Russian people will eventually get so fed up with him and turn on him? I don't think they will, because they're terrified of him. Plus, they're getting brainwashed. I'm not saying everything we see on the news, particularly during wars and everything, is true, but I think we get a better picture of what's actually going on than what the Russians do, because we can watch Russian TV and it's just awful. I mean, I watched RT, Russian television, which is a news channel which I think's been taken off air now, and the stuff they were coming out with on there, and it was broadcast in Europe, and we're like, you can't use your propaganda in Europe when we know what it's like in Europe. We're all being held back by the governments, and we're all under control and all that kind of thing. Well, that's what governments do. That's their job. It's to control people, keep law and order. But it's not what the Russians do. I mean, if you hold a blank piece of paper up in Russia, you get arrested for inciting a riot, or it's a blank piece of paper. You get arrested. It happens in China as well. People have objected to the recruitment of the reserves. Many hundreds, not thousands, have been arrested over that. People are fleeing the country. I think people in Russia, because of the internet now, are more savvy than what they were previously. Even though the internet is heavily controlled, the dark web over there is probably a good thing, because it probably lets people see news from around the world, and that Russia can't actually stop coming through, because obviously you don't get Google and Yahoo and all that kind of stuff over there. But it does strike me as a country that the people who live there think that they're in a better country than they are, but it could be a better country. I mean, don't forget, there's a lot of millionaires now in Russia. Gorbachev passed away recently, but he was the architect who brought down the Soviet Union, as was USSR, and brought down the Berlin Wall and united Europe, and it was all great and lovely. And you got, like I say, Lithuania and Hungary and all them, but they actually managed to leave the Russian area and become independent countries, including Ukraine, and everything's wonderful and great and fabulous, and then Putin comes in, and what I don't get is why he's working the way he is, because he's basically trying to go back to being a communist state, and he's trying to run it as a communist state. I think, like I said months ago, he's doing this because he wants statues of him all over Russia when he dies, a bit like Lenin. And if he's a big warmonger and he's gone in and he's smashed Ukraine and he's got Ukraine back as part of Mother Russia, and then if he had done that, he'd have probably gone for another country as well, and then the Russian people would think he was wonderful, and then when he died, or even before he died, they'd be putting statues everywhere, they'd have a mausoleum to him and all that. But basically what he's done is he's just proven himself as a cowardly war criminal. I mean, you don't bomb civilian targets, you don't bomb nuclear facilities, you don't torture prisoners, military, and certainly not civilian prisoners. You do not execute civilians like the Russian troops have been doing in Ukraine. So basically, all Putin's done, instead of becoming this fabulous Russian leader of the likes of Lenin and all them, he's come up as almost a wannabe Hitler. I mean, no one could ever be as bad as Hitler, but he's going to be remembered in history as a really evil person, and that's not what he wants. He wants to be remembered as this hero. He's outnumbered, they'll see, through his old Cold War propaganda and control, which doesn't work in this age, or does it? Like I said, there's not as much internet as what there... I mean, there's more internet than what there ever has been, but it is more heavily monitored by the state, and all the TV channels are owned by the state as well. So all the news that the majority of people who are not, internet savvy, because you see people interviewed, usually my age, like middle-aged Russians, men and women, and they go, yes, I think Vladimir Putin should, continue, and yes, do all this kind of thing. But that's because they're old school. They don't understand the technology, and they've been brought up thinking that Russia is the best place in the world to live. It's the youngsters, it's the 30-somethings, 20-somethings, teenagers. They're the ones who are more tech-savvy. They're the ones who know how to get round the state, the nanny state that Russia's got there. And they're the ones who are seeing less of the propaganda and more of what everyone else in the world is seeing. And they're the ones who are kicking up a fuss. Normally when you see people protesting, they are 30 years old or younger. The older population, I think, it's just resigned to the fact they live in Russia, life's rubbish, we eat turnips and the rich get richer, and we don't get anything. We all drive larders and we can't drive properly, so which is why we all got dash cams and all that kind of thing. And that's our lot, we just have to put up with it. But the younger people want more out of it, and they can see these rich oligarchs and they think, we want some of that, but we can't have that while Putin's in power. The problem is, if Putin goes out of power, who's going to come in? And what are they going to do? I mean, a bit like Boris over here. Okay, the guy was a bumbling idiot, still is, but he was our bumbling idiot. We knew he was a bumbling idiot, and we knew deep down somewhere in his heart he was trying. Whereas Liz Truss, well, yeah, I've said enough about her. But yeah, these Nord Stream pipes will never be used again, and the reason why they're not being used at the moment, but the reason why there's gas coming out of these 5 holes that they found is because they're very deep in underground, on the bottom of the sea, sorry, in some places 5 miles deep. So a pipe 5 miles deep would get crushed instantly. There was nothing in it. So they need to keep it pumped up with gas so it don't get crushed. But now it's been breached, I'm not saying sabotaged, then the pipe is going to collapse all the way its length, but the gas has got to get out first, which is why you're getting all these gas pools. And this gas is just polluting the atmosphere, which is making things even worse for global warming, because this is a lot of gas that's coming out. But yeah, it's just horrendous what is going on, and this is the world that we're living in at the minute, and that's a tragic thing. It's just, there's nothing good going on, apart from back in England. There's a ceremony that they have every year where a celebrity, in this case Kate Humble, I don't know who she is, I think she was on Country File for a while, can take some sheep over a bridge over the River Thames in the centre of London. So that was some happy news. Phew, I'm glad we got some happy news in at some point. Yeah, not for long. Really, not for long. Now, I've been calling Russia and everything, but there has been something where I felt for the normal people of Russia this week, and that was, there was actual gun shooting in a school in Russia, which is almost unheard of. Sadly, 15 people minimum lost their life, many more injured. The gun person committed suicide on the scene as well. But it's normally something we see in America, and even there, I am like, this is awful, why is this happening? But it is very unusual for something like this to happen in Russia, or it's very unusual for it to be reported, maybe to get a bit of sympathy, but not for the leaders of Russia, for the families of the poor people who've been murdered in Russia. And there's a big difference. There is a hell of a big difference. Now, the the Americans think they control the world. I mean, they're a bit like Russia in that respect. I was going to say less aggressive, but they did invade the Gulf, didn't they? In the Gulf War, that was a war crime as well, when they went into Iraq and Afghanistan and all that, which I've said many times before. Bush and Blair should be in prison for what they authorised and what they did, with no proof of what they were doing was actually true. But NASA, got to love NASA, they've decided now that they are gods. Not even joking. They've sent the DART mission, which is basically a rocket into a comet flying around the universe, because that's a good idea, isn't it? I know what we'll do. We'll fly something at a comet, not a comet, an asteroid, and we'll see what happens. Brilliant. Now there's no air in space, it's a vacuum, so that means there's no resistance to something moving when it is hit by something else. I mean, the nearest example I could come up with is the guy who hit the golf ball on the moon, and the golf ball just kind of disappeared because the gravity on there, and there's no air to slow it down. And the golf ball just kind of went on and on and on. I'm not saying it's still going, it did land, but it went a lot further. This is in space, there's nothing there at all. And they crashed this satellite rocket thing at 14,000 kilometres a minute into this to see what would happen. And the idea is, if there's one coming towards Earth, and we actually get enough notice to recognise there's one coming, then we'd do the same thing. We'd fire one of these things at it, and it would knock it off course. The problem is, there isn't anything coming towards Earth that we know of, and this thing wasn't coming towards Earth, but we still feel it's alright to bash it with an object quite sizable at a stupid speed to see what happens. I wouldn't mind, but that was the artist's impression of what it looked like. And then when we actually saw the picture of it, which was in very grainy black and white, it looked like a rabbit poo with all little bits of grain sticking on the outside. Or it didn't look like a solid block. It looked like it was like just dust and rocks held together. So something ploughing into that could, in theory, just make it just disintegrate into nothing at that speed. I know it's millions of miles away, but it's not the point. The point is, we shouldn't be interfering with things that don't concern us. Like, I don't understand why we've got that bloody telescope taking pictures of galaxies billions of miles away, because whatever we discover there makes no difference to what we're doing on Earth, and that money could be spent on something to help the planet, like maybe reduce global warming, or maybe go to the moon and make like a moon base or something like that, something a bit more constructive, rather than just taking pretty pictures of stuff that's gazillions of light years away. But anyway, yeah, we ate this rat poo, and we had another, it jettisoned a camera out of the back of it, so the camera would follow it and see it hit the object, and then see what reaction it gets from it. And I've not actually seen the picture of the follow-up camera, whether or not it's just taken too long or whether that got destroyed in the impact. I don't know. But if we don't understand what's going on in space, why are we interfering with it? That's basically what I'm trying to say. I get where they're coming from. Armageddon and all that. Never seen it. Don't watch movies. But it's common sense that if something happens to an object travelling in space, i.e. another object hits it, the trajectory of that is going to change. So what we really need to do is, to be on the safe side, have a few intergalactic nuclear weapons dotted around the world as a little shield, and if anything comes up, we just send one of them up and just blow the thing up, and then we'll get all little rocks coming at us, or it might just jettison them all the way around, rather than being hit by a massive rock that killed the dinosaurs. But I don't see the point of spending all this money to hit a rabbit poo 25 million miles away. It just seems silly. Hiya Vinay. So yeah, NASA, they do some good stuff, but my God, they don't have to do some stupid stuff as well. You know, what could possibly go wrong? Well, everything. It's going all right. We're just doing a look at the news this week. Weather. World weather has been bonkers this week. If you live in Canada, you've been hit by a hurricane, the worst hurricane in 200 years, was it? Because Canada do not get hurricanes, but we've got global warming, so Canada do get hurricanes. If you live in Cuba, all the electricity in the entire country was turned off, or the infrastructure was destroyed by a hurricane. No, I'm still in negotiations about the shop. If you live in... If that's a rabbit poo, I don't want to see the rabbit. It's millions of miles away, you'll be fine. And then the hurricane hit Florida Keys and Florida, which I mentioned if you're listening on the podcast, sympathies and everything. And then, where's the other picture? So you think that's shocking, that's terrible, that's horrendous. But then we have a super typhoon that's hitting the Philippines. The world's weather is completely and utterly up. Been ages since I've seen your videos, mate. Yeah, I've kind of branched out now in loads of different things. Basically, think of this channel now as Channel 5, where it's just random programs that don't really mix together, just chucked in: cooking, news, driving, visiting places, playing games. Yeah, basically Channel 5, and this is my GB News section, but only with better production value. So yeah, that is the super typhoon. Yeah, but sadly, many people are being killed. People are losing their houses and everything. It is just horrible what is going on. As is the results of what happened in the inquest of young Molly. Molly was 14 years old and she took her own life after viewing many images on Instagram, Pinterest and various other social media formats. She even got an email apparently from Pinterest saying, we've noticed, you look at these things, here are some other links, and these links were to suicide, how to kill yourself, how to injure yourself, how to self-harm, and there was a photo attached of a razor blade, and it had been sent to her because of what she'd been watching on their thing. It was a computer, it wasn't like a human who'd done it, and the computer thought, oh, they're interested in this, we can do this, that and the other, and we can sell some advertising. So we'll send an email and they could click on all that and then we'll make money from the advertising. Now they've changed the way it works, which is good. However, the woman who was sent from Meta, who are the owners of Facebook and Instagram, basically said that all the images that she'd seen were fine for a 14-year-old to see. Now these images are that fine for a 14-year-old to see. They weren't even allowed to be shown in court, never mind shown on British media, in the papers, or anything like that. These images are beyond horrendous, and she was looking at these images, liking these images, commenting on these images, saying I feel bad, I feel awful, and Meta are just saying no, it was fine. They've apologised, but they're not doing anything about it. And you're like, why are we using Instagram and Facebook? We should kick them into touch very firmly between the gentlemen's regions. Planet Earth looks so beautiful from space, yet look at all the ugly things going on right now on its surface. Yeah, I mean, it's very much like a swan, isn't it? They always say a swan, if you see a swan swimming on water, it's very majestic and it's kind of, just floating around, but underneath the legs are going like buggery. And that's basically what everywhere looks like. From a distance it looks great. As soon as you get closer you get to see the real thing. But yeah, I mean, I try and do this light-heartedly, but there's that much crap going on that I can't do the light-heartedness until I get to the American stuff, because, well, they're just bad. The Queen, they released the death certificate, and she died at 3:10 in the afternoon. I thought she died at 3:30, but she died at 3:10 in the afternoon, which meant that the people flying up, Prince William and Prince Edward and Prince Andrew, didn't make it in time to see the Queen before she passed, but she did have Charles, Camilla, Princess Anne, and the staff, and 2 corgis apparently were there as well. I don't think the horse was allowed in. And they put old age. Now I'm like, whoa, hang on a minute. You know, when I was a kid, anyone died over the age of 50, and it was just old age. But now everything is, you know, oh, it was cardiac anemia, or it was cancer of the heel, or something. There's something given out, a reason why, diagnosed, why someone's died. It's not just old age. And then the Queen dies, like the most important person for many people on the planet, and they just put old age. So, I mean, she was 96, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying she was young, but I mean, my mother's 87, and if eventually, well, not if, but when eventually she passes, I can't imagine they will write on the certificate old age. They will put something on, you know, maybe, I don't know, stroke, heart attack caused by diabetes or whatever. They don't just write old age, so which I thought was a bit of a get out. But it also gives me an excuse to show you the Prince Charles head, which is going to, King Charles, sorry, which is going on the coins, which are being minted from now on. It's obviously he's the one on the right. Now, when kings become king, their image, they don't wear a crown. But when women become queen, where their image is on stamps and everything, they wear a crown. But I never do this. When a monarch dies, the next monarch on the coins, stamps and whatever, faces the other way, which is why the Queen was looking right and King Charles is looking left. Other than that, the actual coins and everything are going to stay the same, and all the coins with the Queen on and all the notes with the Queen on looks more like Andrew on that coin. I must admit, I don't think it was a good likeness, I'll be honest with you, but you know, maybe it looked better in real life when we see it, because that looks like some computer generated thing anyway, so it might look better when we get the real thing in our hands, which could be within 4 or 5 weeks. We could be seeing these 50p coins. The 50p ones are going to be the ones that come out first, and then the other coins, as they're replaced, will have the King's head on, and no doubt notes will be coming out as well, probably within a couple of months, with the King's head on, and it'd be interesting to see if they completely redesign the whole thing, or if they just put the King on but he'll be facing the other way. But I say, I don't remember that, but I do remember when I was a youngster, because people said, oh well, the coins won't be valid anymore because the monarch is dead, and that makes the coins and the notes and everything you know, no longer valid. But they are. They're valid as long as they are in circulation. For example, today was the last day to use in shops the old £20 notes, the paper £20 notes. Today was the last day. You can still take them to a bank and pay them into your account, or get them swapped for the new plastic notes, but it's the last day you can go into a retailer and spend a £20 note. So tomorrow, the 1st of October, it will be all plastic money. It was the same with £50 notes as well, but let's be honest, you don't see many £50 notes lying around, do you? Pardon me. So yeah, let's have a look. Hurricanes, Russian school, Italy far right. Pound record low $1.03, went lower than that. Gas pipe, NASA, Kilio. Mortgage deals withdrawn, so 6 days after. Oh yeah, Liz Truss. Yeah, it was 6 days after a mini Brexit she reappeared, and she got interviewed on local radio, and basically standing up for what she was, what she'd done with the economy and the taxes and everything. And one of the interviewers said afterwards, if something goes really, really wrong, they call it a car crash interview. And this woman said, the interview I did was not a car crash interview. The interview I did was a school bus on fire, falling off the edge of a cliff interview. I mean, Liz Truss has got no idea. Those people who vote for her, okay, they've got a tax break, but they've destroyed the country in the process. They should have got Rishi in. I mean, the lesser of two evils, don't get me wrong. But, yeah, absolute car crash. Horrendous that's going on at the minute. Keith Bennett mentioned, Molly I mentioned as well, yeah. So that's it for the normal news. Whoop, whoop, whoop. So now it's a case, time for even. Meanwhile, in America. Now this is stuff that's reported in America. It's not all American news, but it's the way they report it, and some of it's funny, some of it's sad. But again, we'll try and look at it as light-hearted as we can under the circumstances. There's a bit more Putin, obviously, a bit of Elton John, Meghan Markle, she's around. NASA make a couple of appearances as well, as does Meta, and Virgin Airways in American news make a thing, and a dead body and a wet cat. So yeah, all this to come on the Meanwhile in America section. So let's have a look what's going on in America. So 2 US veterans have been released at the same time as the English guys got released, but obviously it wasn't reported over here in the United Kingdom, after being caught by the Russians in Ukraine. So good news, and they've landed back in America and they've been reunited with the families. Someone who doesn't like families, particularly the royal family, is Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle apparently complained about not getting paid for a 2018 royal tour, the new book claims. She didn't hide her apparent disdain for royal duties before Megxit. Once even complaining out loud, she should have gotten paid for a 2018 tour of Australia. It's like, you couldn't make it up. I've said this many times, she's the Yoko Ono of the royal family. Elton John, I'm not a big fan, I'll be honest with you. He's, yeah. But he went to entertain Joe Biden and 2,000 guests for a TV special on the White House lawn, which is nice. But they could have done it in the more summertime rather than doing it in autumn. But more of that in a bit, I think. White House thank the killer crown prince after Saudis broke a Ukraine prisoner of war swap. So yeah, it turns out that the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who has been accused by the West of murdering the journalist where was that? Turkey or somewhere. But anyway, yeah, he got accused of that and not giving women's rights and human rights, all this kind of stuff. But he's actually helped, apparently, these prisoners of war be released from the Russian prisons that they've been kept in Ukraine, whilst, although we don't know how many, Russians have been taken back to Russia. This is before the dart hit the asteroid, but NASA said they're confident that its DART spacecraft will no longer function after it hits the asteroid. Yeah, at 14,000 kilometres an hour, I don't think anything would survive. And like I say, I still want to see what's happened to the asteroid. We wait for that. Putin's crony threatens to send protesters' relatives to war. So a loyal Russian President Vladimir Putin ally threatened to send the relatives of anti-war protesters to the front line in Ukraine. Oh, it's going so well, isn't it, in Russia for them? Oh, you gotta love them. Now this is a weird one. I actually thought this was cosplay, so that this actually was a person wearing a red costume with a black kind of skirt thing and all that kind of stuff. It was some kind of Comic-Con or something similar. But no, a man will be sentenced to 18 months probation after pleading guilty to vandalising the bewitched statue by dousing the tourist attraction with red paint in the summer. Now, I don't quite understand why. Well, for a start, I don't understand why there's a statue to Bewitched. I mean, I just don't get that. They were a crap Irish pop band. But I don't understand why you would want to vandalise it. I mean, the songs were quite catchy at the same time. But yeah, that is just a weird story. It makes no sense. Anyway, he did go to prison for it, which is not a bad thing. I think he had to lick the paint off or something, I don't know. Biden, we gotta love Biden. You know, I mean, we miss Trump, although he's never gone away, has he? In fact, he's going to turn up again soon. But Biden, he come out with the line, "She was 12, I was 30." President Biden shocked viewers on his Friday speech to teachers when he recognised an audience member and told the crowd, "She was 12, I was 30." Yeah, I think it was just they recognised each other. I don't think it was anything else, but you know what? With politicians, anything goes these days, isn't it? Russians forced UK prisoners to record goodbye to his daughter. So yeah, the one of the British guys, this wasn't reported over here, was forced to record a "Goodbye, I love you" message for his daughter, because he'd been sentenced to death before he got released. Again, to me, that's a war crime. I mean, the sentencing to death is a war crime as well. I mean, there's just so many war crimes. But never mind, he's Putin. Putin's top priest tells Russians not to fear death amid mobilisation. So the top priest of Russia is saying, yeah, if you die when you go to Ukraine, don't worry about it, don't be frightened of it, it'll be fine. 300,000 reservists he's trying to find, and apparently he's not got anywhere near that many so far. Anyway, we wait with breath of bated to see what happens. A cannibal called Mark Latunsky admitted to eating a man named Kevin Bacon. Not the Kevin Bacon, don't panic. The EE adverts will remain as the same. The cannibal from Michigan pleaded guilty to killing and eating part of a man named Kevin Bacon after meeting him on a dating app 3 years ago. I mean, again, what makes people do stuff like this is beyond me. There was a famous cannibal in the United Kingdom. I think it was called Nielsen. In fact, I think Netflix have done something about him recently that's caused a lot of upset. And yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about people who are sensible. Oh no, Meghan Markle clashes with staff over accepting free gifts. Meghan Markle liked freebies and clashed with staffers who tried to explain the royal protocol forbade accepting gifts from commercial organisations. Yeah, I think basically she thinks that she's in the Crown off the telly. I dread to think how she's going to be portrayed if they ever get to the bit with the Crown where she's going to be portrayed, because an aide to Meghan Markle and Prince Harry said the couple were so difficult and tumultuous it was like working for a couple of teenagers. Samantha Cohen, a couple's private secretary, was screamed at before and during the couple's flight to Australia, according to the author. Yeah, she's such a nice lady, isn't she? I really want to talk about a really nice lady. Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton has likened Trump supporters to Nazis. Now, I'm not a Trump supporter fan. I'm not a Trump fan. I'm not a Hillary Clinton fan. But I would never, ever, ever, ever say that supporters of a political party other than the Third Reich are Nazis. I mean, you don't do that. There are places you don't go, and that is one of them. But you know, thankfully she didn't become president. No. A funny joke. Do you like sausages, wieners, that kind of thing? Staten Island has the best rated in an online survey. Cam Soda, the adult entertainment company behind a newly launched Gentleman's Area review website, revealed the Staten Island Ferry is the way to get to see the hottest sausages in the Big Apple. Over the last 2 months, 1,617 New Yorkers dropped their trousers and asked models for their opinion on what they were packing downstairs. The Forgotten Borough made a lasting impression, with the junk on the island receiving an average of 8.89. Now, I don't know how you rate one of them things. Is it size, length, girth? prettiness, although I don't think they're even remotely pretty. But yeah, apparently you can stick a picture up online and people will review it for you. Talking of dicks, Meghan Markle. She didn't understand the crown jewels protocol. We're not on about sausages anymore now, we're actually on about the crown jewels, not like a euphemism for the area. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, not long before her 2018 wedding to Prince Harry, Meghan Markle wanted the Queen Mary's tiara fitted while her own private hairstylist was in London. But you're not allowed to do that because they don't belong to the royal family, they belong to the nation. So, and anyway. An angler, Edward Polner, is suing because he was too drunk to pass a polygraph test that cost him prize money. He lost his golden opportunity to earn $200,000, which is a hell of a lot of pounds now, nearly £200,000 in prize money for a Rhode Island fishing tournament, because officials didn't believe his nearly £200 catch was above board, and according to a lawsuit, said his captain failed a lie detector test administered by the officials because he was too drunk. It's like, you have a lie detector test to prove that you caught a fish. Now, not a lot of people know, well, I've said that, everyone knows, that the person who played Darth Vader in the original Star Wars movies was David Prowse, who people of Britain will remember as the Green Cross Code Man. He was a very tall guy. He was also, I think he was some kind of athlete as well. I think he was a swimmer for the Olympics or something like that. And then he took up acting, and then he got the job as Darth Vader. The only problem was he's from Dorset. So he'd be saying, "Now Luke, I am your father." And it didn't really work. So he's doing all the voices and he's doing the talking when they're filming it, but then they dub in James Earl Jones's voice. So it's got that dark, menacing, threatening tone to it. You know, it's like, "Hey, Luke, I am your father," kind of thing. But now the 91-year-old actor has signed over the rights to his voice, allowing Vader's line to be generated using artificial intelligence. So basically, his voice, if he passes away, they can still use his voice for Darth Vader, but it'll be generated via a computer, but it will be his voice. So I don't know how that would show up on the credits. It'd be interesting to see. Although I've never watched any Star Wars movies apart from the first one, which I thought was rubbish, so I never watched another one after that. NASA delays the Artemis 1 launch as Tropical Storm Ian moves towards Florida, a hurricane as it turned out. After completing fuel tests, engineers put the launch back, and I think they took it back to the shed that it lives in, because let's be honest, it wouldn't stand up to a side wind, something that big and that narrow. Oh God. Meghan Markle thought she would be Beyonce of the UK after marrying Harry. Oh. She's like the gift who keeps on giving. I mean, I don't understand the mentality. I mean, are all Americans this stupid? I mean, yeah, they voted George W. Bush in twice, Donald Trump in only once, thank God. But then Biden. But to be fair, yeah, the choice wasn't great, was it? But yeah, she thought that she would be basically probably the new Princess Diana. But no, you've got to have some dignity in order to get the respect of the people, particularly in Britain. And it's fair to say there's no dignity being shown there. Where's that picture come from? James Earl Jones, I think. I've no idea where that's come from, that picture. Anyway, never mind, let's move on. A 12-year-old Texas girl shoots her dad in an alleged plot with friends to kill their families. A 12-year-old girl shot her father and then turned the gun on herself after making a pact with a friend to murder their families and run away together. Again, how are children aged 12 getting hold of guns? I don't understand how this is even possible. I mean, it's a horrendous story, but it just shows that Americans have not got a grip on one of their major issues that is going on in their country. And, you know, these tragedies are just going to carry on until someone stands up and says something and says, we need to do something about this. But again, that's just my humble opinion. What do I know? What else are we looking at? Oh yeah, a man with a 48-year-old grudge was caught peeing on his ex-wife's grave every day by her kids. I mean, why they didn't report him on the first day, I don't know. But yeah, he was that upset with his ex-wife that when she died, he went every day to her grave to urinate on it. Again. Zelensky says Russian deserters will be treated in a civilised manner. And I was like, oh, that's very nice of him. But then I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. We've got all these Russians queuing up to leave Russia and to go into different countries so that they avoid being conscripted as reservists into the army and sent as soldiers to fight the Ukrainian people. But how do we know all them people are genuinely pacifists, don't want to fight and don't believe in the war? How many of these are actually being sent by Putin into other countries to then mobilise and come round the back and attack? We don't. So for Putin, for Zelensky to say they'll be treated in a civilised manner, I'd be like, no. Russia invaded Ukraine in February this year, sorry. That was like 8 months ago. The people that are fleeing Russia now have not done anything about it until now, until they are being threatened to go to war. It's the only time they're acting, and then they're trying to flee the country. No, you didn't do anything now, why should we help you? If you didn't do anything till now, why should we help you? And yeah, that's changed my mind. I actually spoke to someone about it today, and I was like, you know what? You're right. That is a valid point. These people have been in Russia, not doing anything, and now they're trying to get out of the country and expect to be treated, when basically they have, by their inaction, supported the conflict anyway. But again, discuss. The military hostages getting back. These ones have ended up back in Alabama, which is great. But never mind, we've got Biden again. Biden declares Florida state of emergency, and he postpones a trip as tropical storm Ian strengthens, as we know now, into a hurricane. That's what they can do in America. They declare a state, emergency disaster area, and then they can send loads of money to that without actually going through Congress or anything, which is very helpful because the money gets there really, really quick, and that's what they need to help rebuild. Ukraine President Zelensky fears, I would say, that nuclear war could be a reality. If Russia ramps up, Russia is ramping up ominous saber-rattling threats. He wants to scare the whole world, Zelensky said. It is a scary thought, whether or not he's stupid enough to do it. But then you're thinking, this is Putin, not Zelensky. You're like, but he is very, very stupid. We know that. We've seen how stupid he is. So yeah, I think we've just got to keep an eye on it. Meanwhile, Vice President Harris is visiting Seoul, or is about to visit Seoul when this was printed. So North Korea, because Seoul's capital of South Korea, has been launching ballistic missile. I mean, there's one there, but they've done a couple more since as well, to show their strength, and that they're not scared of America. So what have America done? US South Korea launch drills after the North Korean missile launch. So the USA and South Korea launched joint military drill off the Korea Peninsula as a show of strength against North Korea. I mean, look at all them planes on that ship. I mean, there are more planes on that ship than we've got planes, I think, in our Air Force. I mean, that is a lot of planes on one ship. I mean, you know, is Kim Jong-un that mad that he thinks he could take on and beat the Americans? I hope not, genuinely, for his safety, never mind the world's safety. It's just a scary thought. But yeah, it's gone on since then as well. Japan's joined in, but we may get more of that later. Beyond Sausage. Now, last week I reported that one of the founders of Beyond Sausage had been arrested for biting the nose of someone he was having an argument with, and I pointed out the irony that he's vegetarian and he was trying a bit of cannibalism by biting a nose of someone. I mean, how the hell you get to bite a nose of someone? I have no idea. But again, Beyond Meat are in. Well, this is Beyond the Sausage, but not the. It's hot Italian. It's not from Stanton Island. Alternative protein brands such as Beyond Meat and Impossible Foods are in the midst of a sales slump. That's because their food is crap. I mean, I've reviewed Beyond Meat burgers and they are garbage. The McPlant is a Beyond Meat burger and it is crap. My argument with these foods are, how much energy does it take to convert vegetables to look and have the texture of meat, yet fail abysmally because they don't? They're not green, they're not environmentally friendly, and they taste like crap. I don't get how making something look like a burger or making something look like a sausage but taste like mush is going to help people become vegetarian. Just make vegetarian things that are obviously vegetables. That might work better. But I noticed, and it was pointed out, there was a social media post as well recently. The Queen's funeral was on Monday last week, and on the Sunday you went to a supermarket and all the shelves in the fridges were pretty much empty. There was like a couple of chickens, a pack of minced beef and all that kind of stuff. But you looked at the vegetarian section and it looked like it did every day of the week, because people were panic buying for Saturday, Sunday and Monday because the shops were shut on Monday. So they were buying all meats, fresh meats and all that kind of stuff. But they weren't buying Beyond Meat or anything like that because it's just not fit for purpose. I don't understand how it's meant to be better for the planet. I get that no cows were involved in the making of it, but there's a lot of energy involved in making a pea look like a sausage. So yeah, I think that bubble's burst, and yeah, they are woke as well, and I think anything woke. I think anyone who's woke, because I think the Rando idea with which the previous administration over here had, which was any illegal immigrants coming here get sent on a plane to Rwanda, which is in Africa, and then their claim is dealt with, and if they're legitimately allowed to come to England, they get flown back again, and if they're not, they get flown back to wherever they come from. And I think that's a brilliant idea, but I think we should take it further. I don't think it's a brilliant idea sending refugees to Rwanda, don't get me wrong, but I think the principle of the thing could be used for other things. So I think all the woke people on the planet should be put on a big rocket and sent to Mars. And I don't mean in a horrible way. Build a little town or city there, and they can be as woke as they want. Within their own, they can have their own little planet, and they can do what they want, and they can be woke and live in woke life, and everything will be woke, and it'll be great. And we can just get on with being human and mammals and existing in a way that works, rather than trying to please everybody all the time and not offend everybody all the time. When I was a kid, there was an old thing that said, "Sticks and stones may break your bones, but names will never hurt me." Nowadays, I mean, I've got a grandson who's 4. I'm terrified of when he gets to 12 or 13 or 14 and he gets interested in girls. If he does, I don't know. But, is this the end of is woke going to destroy the human race because lads will be too terrified to even look at girls, never mind, go out with them and eventually have babies with them? I can't imagine. So, yeah, it's a strange world we're living in, and I think woke people including everyone who, Beyond Meat could be the sole provider of food on Mars. I think that'd be brilliant. I think we should do that. So let's all save up and send the woke people away. Ted Cruz, everyone's favourite idiot in America after Donald Trump and Biden, has hailed a spectacular election victory for Italy's far-right coalition led by Giorgia Meloni. He's really, really happy because she's got in. And I'm like, that's another reason that maybe we shouldn't be happy, because if Ted Cruz thinks it's a good idea, it's obviously not. But there has been a birth. The planet's had a baby. Oh, that's nice. A new baby island has been spotted in the middle of the ocean hours after an underwater volcano erupted not far from Australia. The underwater Home Reef volcano, found in the central Tonga Islands, erupted, and within hours the Earth's newest landmass had formed. Lava from the volcano was cooled by the ocean water, forming the island, which grew in size over several days. Oh, congratulations, planet Earth. We're destroying it, but you're still producing new land masses, which is great. Sadly, it'll probably get flooded with the global warming and the levels of the sea rising, but, kill them while they're young. The landmass, not anything else. Moscow are sending guards to the border as Russians try and flee the draft. So, at least one Russian border crossing is armed to the teeth as young men try to flee. President Vladimir Putin's mobilization has sent Federal Security Service forces to the borders to try and convince people trying to leave the country to join the army. I think they're wasting their time. Nearly 50 Californian sheriff deputies barred from active service for failing psych evaluations. Wow, only 50? I mean, I'm not an expert. I don't know the numbers of police in California, or sheriff deputies in California. I can't imagine there's many more than 50, if only 50 of them have been barred from active duty. The American police seem to kill more people by guns than any other class of people in society in America. At least that's how it comes across over here anyway. There's definitely something wrong with the mental health of people in America, particularly police officers. So I think maybe they need to do more evaluations, because you cannot have any more disgusting actions by the authorities, by the police. I mean, America's lost a lot of credibility anyway with the rest of the world for the way that things have been going on over there, but the police force, they've got to be the one group of people on the streets who actually are doing the right thing, and they're not. They're always in the news for doing the wrong thing. Meta disabled Russian propaganda network targeting Europe. Right, just remind you, Russia has been a naughty boy for a very long while. A very, very long while. Got particularly naughty in February, which is like 8 months ago or whatever. And only now, Meta have disabled the Russian propaganda network targeting Europe. Only now. Now, we've had vote rigging or interference and stuff like that going on for a long while. And only now they decide to do it. These big companies, they need to be held to account for a lot more than what they are. The IRS sent over $1 billion in child tax credit payments to ineligible households. So basically, lots of households got cash for child benefit who weren't entitled to it. They either didn't have children, or didn't have the number of children stated, or had lied about the number of children they had, but they got the money anyway. Trump, yay, at last, some sense in the world. What's he said? Trump warns of possible World War III over Ukraine and Taiwan. Former President Donald Trump warned on Tuesday that World War III could erupt over Ukraine or Taiwan said said Russian President Vladimir Putin's threat of unleashing nuclear weapons made this thing a very bad and very dangerous time. Sorry, a very bad. No, I can't do his voice anymore now. China, Taiwan. No, can't do it. During an appearance on 77 WABC radio, Trump was asked what things kept you up at night. I think more than anything else, I think we could end up in World War III, and it could be all horrible things that took place in Ukraine. Oh. I mean, I think we all know there's a possibility that we could get World War III from Ukraine. We don't need him telling us. And I'll be honest, if he was still president, we'd probably be already in World War III. But thankfully he's not. But yeah, go on Trump, keep going. Keep going until you fall into the sea. Gunmen kill team football player and injure 4 teammates in an ambush. Again, horrendous. 2 gunmen terrorised, it says. I mean, it's more than terrorising. Killed a football player and injuring 4 of his teammates in an ambush. The violence erupted outside the Roxbury High School in Philadelphia at 4:30 p.m. as the boys were leaving football practice, I assume. Football matches against 2 other schools. Again, these are people who shouldn't have access to guns. I mean, you might have a fight outside. Your player's better than my player, or whatever. My school's better than your school. I mean, there was always, when I was at school, there was always fights with the other school. My school was called Copley, and there was another school called West Hill, and West Hill was an old boys' school. It was like a grammar school, and there was always these fights that were going on, and there was this turf rivalry. They're about up to 2 miles apart. They're not like next to each other's schools. There's quite a considerable gap between them. But there was always this animosity. If you were in the town centre and you saw someone from the other school and you were in uniform, you'd shout a little bit of abuse at them. But we were always being told that there was a big scrap going on between the schools, near the canal or on some industrial wasteland or whatever. I never went because I'm a lover, not a fighter. As long as I don't have to touch people in any way, that's fine. I can love you from a distance. And I've never had a fight in my life, actually. I've never had a punch up at all, which is I find very bizarre. But also I'm very pleased about that. But yeah, can you imagine guns in the United Kingdom? I don't think we're daft enough to use them, to be honest. There's only like a very, very small percentage of people who actually do use guns in the UK. Now this, I know you've got a lot to remember when you're President of the United States of America, but when you're doing a speech and then you ask where an individual is, whom you've very recently mentioned or give a tribute to after their passing, it does make you wonder what is going on inside that man's head. But like I say, the family forgive him. But yeah. Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's been back to Auschwitz. He said I'll be back. Arnold Schwarzenegger visited Auschwitz Nazi death camp on Wednesday to deliver a message against prejudice and hate. The Terminator actor, he's done other things as well, met with a Holocaust survivor, a son of Holocaust survivors, and a woman who was forced into experiments by Nazi doctors. He also saw the barracks, watchtowers, and remains of the gas chambers, as well as placed candles on the monuments to a remembrance area that they've got. Now, you can't. I mean, we live in mad times, but I mean, we didn't live through World War II. Or it's very unlikely anyone listening to this or watching this lived through World War II. And we cannot imagine the hell that people went through, which wasn't hell from nature, it was hell from other people, from other human beings, i.e. the Nazis. And Arnold Schwarzenegger's gone there to prove a point. Obviously, Auschwitz is in Austria, he's Austrian. So he's gone to prove a point and show his support, and these things must never happen again. But it's kind of apt when what is going on in Ukraine is going on. I'm not saying it's the same by any stretch of the imagination of what Hitler did, but there are some similarities, and we need to make sure it doesn't get to the stage where it got to in World War II. A sign. A mountain lion attacked a 7-year-old California boy who was walking in a park. It bit him on the buttocks, which seems a bit weird. Officials said the young boy was walking up some stairs and was attacked from behind by a mountain lion and bitten on the buttocks. Thankfully, the boy's injuries are non-life-threatening, and he's expected to make a full recovery. But when he's about 17 or 18, that is going to be his chat-up line, assuming you can have chat-up lines when he's 17 or 18 in 10 years' time. In a pub, I got bit by a mountain lion, do you want to see my scars? And then just drops his pants. But yeah, thankfully he was okay, and that's the main thing. And then they put a sign up saying, watch out for mountain lions. Disney World asks hotel guests to shelter on site during Hurricane Ian as the parks close. Now, they did it right compared to how Centre Parks did it for the Queen's funeral. Centre Parks is an outdoor country activity centre where people can stay in the centre of the country, and it's in I think it's in Sherwood Forest, or on the outskirts of Sherwood Forest, which is where Robin Hood lived, as referenced earlier on. Anyway, the Centre Parks asked their residents to completely leave and vacate the premises for the day of the Queen's funeral. And then after a furore, they backtracked and said you can stay, but you've got to stay in your cabins and your rooms and everything. And they just handled it really badly. It wasn't a major weather event, it was just a funeral and the staff were having a bank holiday. Now, I'm pretty sure that the staff at Centre Parks work bank holidays normally anyway, because it's a holiday centre and people would go there for the day on a bank holiday to enjoy the facilities. But anyway, it was completely cack-handedly handled. But Disney World seemed to have handled this as well as they could do under the circumstances, and hopefully everyone was okay and got out, and hopefully Disney World was still there afterwards. Virgin Atlantic scraps gendered uniforms. Way woke! And they're going to hand out pronoun badges. So it'll say like Richard, he, him, or Richard, she, him, or Richard, or whatever. Again, it's woke. Virgin Atlantic unveiled a revamped uniform on a policy on Wednesday that will do away with gender clothing requirements for its staff and introduce pronoun badges for crew members and customers. Effective immediately, all of its pilots, flight attendants and ground crew members were given a choice to wear either its Vivienne Westwood designed burgundy or red uniform featuring pants or skirts. So you can now wear whatever you want when you're flying with Virgin Airways. Now, I'm not a prude by any stretch of the imagination, but I think sometimes things just go a bit too far. Things weren't right before, but like I've said many times, we've kind of gone from one extreme where things were not great, but we should be around about here, but we've kind of gone all the way over here now, and then we're going a bit further as well. We're going that far, we're even off the screen. That's how far we've gone. So yeah, we need to rein it back in a little bit and just be sensible out of things. Hurricane Ian wreaks havoc throughout the Florida Keys, which it would do. Again, we still haven't got the full results of what's gone on there, but hopefully as many people as possible are safe, because you've got to stay safe at all times, and you've got to use precautions as well. For example, condoms on a microphone. A Florida reporter defended putting a condom on a microphone during Hurricane Ian broadcast. A Florida reporter captured viewers' attention when the condom on a microphone flashed on the screen during an outdoor hurricane broadcast. Now, that's one thing I don't get with journalists. Why do we insist on putting them out in the middle of a hurricane, typhoon, earthquake, whatever it is, when the whole population has been told to evacuate, and you've got a poor cameraman or woman and a reporter stood just about hanging on for dear life that could be struck by any amount of debris blowing past or swept away, but for news entertainment they've got to be there. I don't get it. They can report. We've got webcams everywhere, and there was a webcam of one of the big bridges in Florida that you could watch live as the hurricane came in. Surely they'd be better off in a hotel room or something when it hits, rather than, yeah, okay then. Yeah, okay, you're right. There are some idiots who think it's a good idea to go swimming in a hurricane and surfing in a hurricane. To be fair, they are referred to as insane Floridians. Now, Floridians I didn't even know was a word. Now, I'm not saying, all Floridians are insane, or only people from Florida are insane. There are no other insane people ever been on the planet. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's chimpanzee Bubbles is in a secure space at a Florida sanctuary as Ian approaches. Just clarify, Ian isn't a human who hates chimpanzees called Bubbles. Ian is the hurricane. It felt the need to report that Bubbles, who is now a fully grown adult aggressive chimpanzee, has been kept safe because, well, I was worried about Bubbles. So it's nice to know that Sunshine State is keeping care of former celebrity mammals. Stocks rebound from 2022 low, and Dow closes up more than 500 points. All over the country and all over the world, the stocks and shares have just gone mental. And why is that not working? Is people actually talking? No, you're not. No one's talking anymore. Okay, I just thought that would broke then. But it's not just the UK, it's every country in the world that's going through this. I mean, okay, Ukraine have basically, they're not shot themselves in the foot, they've blown their legs off with their budget that we've done recently. But it's a worldwide phenomenon. India overrun by cow bombings in beef over government funding. And I'm like, what the hell's a cow bombing? Is it like a suicide cow? But no, it's not, thank God. One way to call out elected officials on their BS, a coalition of cow caretakers, herders, have let 25,000 cattle loose in India to protest a lack of government aid in combating a deadly bovine disease. So basically, they're not getting the medication that they need from the government to save their livelihoods and the cows. Bearing in mind that cows are sacred as well in many parts of India and Asia. So these cows have got this disease which is killing them, and not being treated by the government, and the people who own the cows cannot actually sort out the medication themselves, so they just let the cows loose in the cities and on the streets, and why not? Hi Robert, I'm okay, thank you. A Florida man waves in America. No, sorry. A Florida man waves American flag in Hurricane Ian's face. That'll show him. That'll show this massive, huge thing. I mean, that just sums up America, doesn't it, though? Let's be honest. That's like every American, probably. Or maybe about 10%. I'm going to wave a flag at the hurricane because I'm American. No, mate, you're an idiot. Just get inside your house, stay safe, look after your family. Russia tries to recruit men looking to flee at border crossings. We've already covered that. But yeah, because that many people have fled, Putin hasn't got enough men now for his backup. So he's going to sort that out. A Nebraska school bus crash injured 11 children after it collides with a semi-trailer truck. Again, horrendous. I mean, school buses are built specifically for school buses in America. They are, a lot stronger than many other vehicles. I mean, as you can see, it's on its side, but it doesn't look as badly damaged as, say, a United Kingdom bus does when it hits a semi or articulated lorry, as it is in this case. Thankfully, only 11 injuries. I mean, it could have been a hell of a lot worse. And yeah, I mean, it's a good story in the fact that the bus did its job. I think that's what I'm getting at on that one. Hurricane Ian wreaks havoc on southwest Florida. Now you've got to remember that Hurricane Ian basically destroyed Cuba, and there was only a little bit said about this. It hits Florida and it's all over the place. Anyway, yeah, it's really, really bad. A Category 4 storm, the wind's up to 150 miles an hour, making it one of the strongest hurricanes ever to hit the country. As you can see there, it's blown that poor woman's umbrella inside out. Horrendous damage. Okay, I know, it's not more than that. The acting director of the National Hurricane Center cautioned a CNN host against linking Hurricane Ian directly to climate change. I don't understand how anyone could possibly say that this weather we're getting all over the world. Remember last week I was reporting on a typhoon in Japan, and hurricanes dotted around here, there and everywhere. The weather around the world is completely screwed, and the only reason it's completely screwed as quickly as it has gone completely screwed is because of human activity. I still stand by the fact that if the United Kingdom if the United Kingdom went literally green, carbon neutral like that overnight, it wouldn't make a jot of difference to the rest of the planet. We're too small, we're too insignificant size wise to make a difference. So whatever we're doing is irrelevant. What we need to do is we need to make sure, as well as us doing what we can, America, China, India, Russia, they all reduce their carbon output considerably. Otherwise, this is just going to be the new normal, and you know, the planet is going to be destroyed even quicker than what it currently is. That's what you're saying. A cat lover was charged with murder for running over a man to save a cat. A Californian woman allegedly ran over a man on purpose in a bid to save a cat she thought he was trying to kill. Oh right, I misread that. I thought she'd swerved to avoid a cat and run over a man, because I wouldn't have thought that was murder. But if it was on purpose, then that does make it a bit different. She faces murder charges after Louis Victor died as a result of his injuries following the accident in September. She got out of her vehicle and yelled profanity at Victor and accused him of trying to run over a cat. Okay, yeah, so that's a completely different edge on that than what I was thinking it was. So yeah, I was thinking it was going to be you can't charge her with murder for that, but yeah, you can. Here we go. Now we're going on about the reserve army that Putin's trying to get. Basically, it's people my age and older that it seems to be getting, which are the ones who, like I said earlier on, are not tech savvy and believe everything that they get told by the Russian government, because that's all they've done for their entire life, because there was no internet when they were kids. And the youngsters are the ones who are trying to flee. But you can see majority of people in that picture, from what you can see, have got a strong head of grey hair, and life has not been kind to many of them either by the looks of things. He's trying to get 300,000 soldiers, and he's literally having to drag in, older men. Now, to be fair, in Ukraine, a lot of the army are older people, but they've been trained for their entire life for this, because, well, certainly for decades anyway, because they knew that there was a strong possibility that Russia would try and invade one day, and Putin had no idea that they were as well prepared as they were. And thank God they had Zelensky in power as well, because otherwise that would have been completely different. A 4-month-old kitten named Thor, who calls a cat Thor, saved a Michigan family from a carbon monoxide poisoning. Thor lived up to his superhero rep just perfectly. A 4-month-old kitten living with a Farmington Hills, Michigan family started meowing in distress while carbon monoxide from a generator in a closed garage began to fill the home, waking up his sleeping humans before they succumbed to the deadly fumes. So basically the cat has been deemed a hero. It's not, it's a cat trying to survive. That's what they do. Any animal does that. New York City residents asked for tips to rid of dead body smell. Reddit dead redemption. Should read these properly before I read them out. That's a Red Dead Redemption thing, but it doesn't make sense because it's not cowboys and Indians. It seems New Yorkers clearly know way too much about how to deal with odour from dead bodies. A Big Apple resident whose apartment building was allegedly befouled by the smell of a decomposing corpse asked fellow people on Reddit how to get rid of the death stench, and receiving an alarming amount of tips in the stomach-churning thread. Yeah, well, yeah, we've had a body in our house for 20 years, but you can't smell it now because it's just bones. But what we used was rice in a bucket or whatever. And I did promise you a wet cat earlier, and everyone likes a damp muggy. A Florida man steals hearts after rescuing a cat during Hurricane Ian. A Florida man became the darling of Hurricane Ian after he went viral in a video showing him rescuing a stranded cat surrounded by rising floods. He made his way to the frightened feline sitting atop an air conditioning unit at the side of a house as the water came gushing in. So yeah, and then he went around stealing hearts, which makes him a murderer in my eyes, because you need a heart to live, don't you? What are you doing? Cutting them out. But at least the cat was alright, that's the main thing. A Florida man is missing after trying to jet ski to the Bahamas. He was trying to jet ski from Florida to the Bahamas. He was last seen on September the 23rd, and now he's been declared missing on a week later. I mean, you ain't going to last a week. It's 115 miles and it's open sea on a jet ski. What? I think it almost rings a bell of the old, the man with the paddle in the United Kingdom who faked his own death by canoeing, because that got into the news. He disappeared, they couldn't find his body because he wasn't dead, he faked it. They found his bashed up canoe, assumed he was dead, his wife got the money, they went to Panama and then they got caught and went to prison for fraud. But to me that rings a lot like that. Yeah, okay, right family, I'm going to fake my own death, I'm going to say I'm going to jet ski. Are you all listening? But don't tell anyone, I'm going to jet ski to the Bahamas. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go out on my jet ski, make sure everyone sees me, and then if you come and pick me up in your boat, we'll leave the jet ski in the middle of the sea. Eventually it'll be found, my body won't be found, but what I'll do is I'll escape to Mexico, and then when you get the payout from the insurance, if you all fly down to Mexico, and then we can all move to Panama. That'd be great. Yeah, I mean, I hope that's what's happened. I feel really bad if he's actually genuinely thought he was going to do it and has genuinely died from it. Jet ski, the sharks enjoyed it. A horny woman denies forcing man into rumpy-pumpy in court. I'm too lazy to go on top. A woman is charged with forcing a man into having rumpy-pumpy, and she's been found not guilty after she told the jury that she was too lazy to overtake him. Imogen Brooks, 30. Oh, I could be cruel there and say I don't know whether that's her age or her weight in stones, but I'm not going to say that. Is accused of pinning down the man at her home in Southampton, England. After they were met on an online dating site. She was very drunk and horny when she suggested they should have a bit of rumpy-pumpy, and refused to take no for an answer. Oh my god. I was going to say only in America, but no, that's in England. I could tell you a story about one of my exes, but this is a family show. Amazon worker blasts customers for placing orders during Hurricane Ian. Now, Amazon staff in general have a poor life. They work for Amazon, I mean. But this poor guy had 172 deliveries to make during Hurricane Ian. So he did a video, I assume on TikTok, yeah, I hate all of you right now, the employees that shared his rant on TikTok under the username I'm Normal Poet. I hate all of you right now. You all knew this hurricane was coming, and you still order shit. I got to go to 172 of you, y'all, today. I hate y'all. Everything is wet, and I agree. I think under the circumstances, to be fair, Amazon should have suspended deliveries for that day. There's a hurricane coming, 150 mile an hour winds. They still send their employees out to do 172 deliveries. It's Amazon that are at fault, and people can wait a day for their bloody packages, whatever they are. South Korea, this is what I was on about earlier. South Korea and USA, they did some manoeuvres at South Korea Peninsula to kind of rattle their sabres against North Korea. But now Japan joined in, and they held anti-North Korean submarine drills. So I don't think that means they're drilling under North Korea. I think it just meant they were doing some practicing in submarines to frighten North Korea, but nothing frightens them. Now, I'm not a big fan of things that are a complete waste of time. For example, HS2, which, if you don't live in the United Kingdom, is a new train line that's being built from London to Manchester at extreme cost and environmental damage to woodlands, marshes, all that kind of stuff. They're basically building a brand new train line from London to Manchester to shave off 45 minutes of the journey. It is not a long journey, it's 200 miles. In America, that's like you nip to your grandma 200 miles, don't you? But no, over here, massive thing. It's going to take 20 odd years to finish. It's going to cost billions and billions and billions of pounds for saving that amount of time. Complete waste of time, complete waste of money. Scrap the whole thing. Just maybe tweak the train lines we've already got for a lot less money, a lot less environmental damage, and we might get half that improvement for less than a third or even less than a quarter of the cost. But a new supersonic jet could fly from New York City to London in 80 minutes. Now, it's always quicker flying from New York to London than it is flying from London to New York because of the jet stream, because that blows from America towards Europe, and you're going against the jet stream when you're flying the other way. I know Concorde, the record for Concorde was coming from America to United Kingdom. I can't remember what it was, but it was pretty impressive. Dubbed the Hypersting, the conceptual plane would be nearly twice as large and travel twice as fast as the Concorde, which retired in 2003. The Hypersting is 328 feet long, 168 foot wingspan, and would dart up to 170 passengers across the Atlantic. And I think that would be good, because getting from London to New York City in 80 minutes it would make it commutable. So yeah, I'm all for that one. Keep up the good work. Get it up there. Get practicing. Test it out. Do all you need to do. And yeah, well done. Now this is pretty gruesome. The floods that have followed Hurricane Ian in Florida have washed away the topsoil in various cemeteries, which means that there are some bodies which have become visible when the flood waters retreat, which is nasty and horrible. And hopefully, well, I suppose they weren't expecting the place to be flooded. Maybe they have to rethink burials from now on. New York City push for e-bike battery regulation after a string of deadly fires. Now, when what were they called? Hoverboards came out, which are not hoverboards at all. The ones with the two wheels that you stand on and they kind of tilt like that, and you can go forwards and backwards and spin and all that kind of thing. A lot of them, when they first come out, used to, when you're charging them up, leave them overnight, the batteries would explode and cause fires and that kind of thing. Well, apparently in America, it's still a problem. Not over here now. We've kind of sorted it out because we have regulation on these things. And now they're saying that there should be regulation on e-bike batteries because there's been a number of fires and a few deaths, including a 2-year-old and her mother inside an apartment. And I think, yes, definitely. So that is it for this week. We've got one more bit of UK news, and this was taken from Sky News actually. Sky News. I thought we'd like to do something a bit light-hearted, for God's sake. A trapped squirrel forces Greg's shop to close. A cheeky critter was captured in a branch of the high street pastry specialist in Scotland on Saturday and was not freed into the nearby woods until Tuesday evening. So basically, a squirrel stayed in a Greg's. Best had a weekend in Greg's. Why don't you? You know, in Scotland, might not even be a Scottish squirrel. Might just got up for a holiday, change of scenery, that kind of thing. But why we're going to Greg's? I mean, I don't get why people like Greg's so much, because the food's always cold. You go in and have a steak slice or whatever, and I'd say 9 times out of 10, at best, it's lukewarm. It's very, very rare you're going to get one coming out of the oven that'll burn your mouth if you try to eat it. And they're not cheap, and the quality of them isn't that good. So I don't understand why Squirrel would choose to go there. I think, personally, he might have been looking for his nuts. Anyway, I don't know what I'm talking about. But that is it for the podcast today. So I will leave you with an image of Liz Truss, just so you can remember what she looks like if she goes missing again. Because, like I said before, she did this. She had her new Chancellor bring this really stupid budget out, which has completely crashed the UK economy, and then disappeared for 6 days, and then only reappeared to do some interviews for local BBC radio stations. There are many, which one of them was described not a car crash interview, it was a school bus on fire dropping off a cliff interview. She is completely, Liz Truss is completely out of her depth. Everyone who voted for her should be put on that rocket that's going to Mars with all the woke people, because they've only done it for their own benefit. The majority of them are middle-aged white men with plenty of money. And who's gained the most out of these tax cuts? Men with plenty of money. So I said a few weeks ago that if Liz Truss got in, she'd be lucky if she lasted 6 months. I'm now thinking, ignore the first couple of weeks, because obviously the Queen passed away and that completely put everything else on hold. So she's only really had like half of last week and this week. So she's only, like, to my eyes, a week and a half in, and she's completely to everything up. It's amazing how she's done it. People are still defending her, no idea why. But I'm now saying that she shouldn't be in for 3 months. I personally would not be unhappy with her being chucked out next week, today, in an hour's time. She is a danger to the UK people, and she should not be where she is. I don't want Keir Starmer in either, I'll be honest with you. If you want to know why, then just rewind the beginning of this broadcast. I talk in depth about Liz Truss and Keir Starmer. Yeah, Keir Starmer can't even clap. Anyway, that is it. So thank you very much for watching. Big shout out to King Brad, Robert Brown, Billy Shears, JT and Rachel, Vinay, Kieran. I think that's it. Yeah, we've had no thinking today, have we? But yeah, thank you very much for watching, if indeed you still are, and all well-being. I will see you again next time. Until then...